Good morning, children. I welcome you to a new class in physics today. I'm going to continue with the chapter sound. If you remember, in the last class, I taught you about sound, and I told you that sound is a form of energy which needs a material medium to propagate, and it can travel in the form of two types of waves, namely transverse and longitudinal waves. Now, I proceed further in today's class. I'm going to introduce some important terms to you related to wave motion. Okay, I pick up one at a time and I explain it to you. The first one is amplitude. Now, amplitude is denoted by small a, and the SI unit of amplitude is meters. You can see I've written it down. Now, I have shown you here I'm representing a transverse wave and a longitudinal wave. How do you define amplitude, children? It is the maximum displacement of a particle from its mean position. You can see that in a transverse wave, the particle is, I told you the particle moves perpendicular to the direction of propagation of wave, and in longitudinal it moves parallel. So therefore, amplitude is the maximum displacement of a particle from its mean position. Okay, and that is said to be the amplitude. Now I go to the second definition, and that is time period. Time period is denoted by capital T, and the SI unit of time period is seconds. Okay, now how do you define time period? You say that time period is the time taken by a wave to complete one vibration. Now, in case of a transverse wave, one vibration is one crest and one trough, and in case of a longitudinal wave, one vibration is one compression and one rarefaction. So therefore, the time period is the time taken by the wave to complete one vibration. Okay, now I come to the third definition, and that is frequency. Frequency could be denoted by small f, small n, or a nu. This is the symbol for frequency of a wave. You can use any one symbol. Okay, now the SI unit of frequency is hertz, Hz, H capital, Z small, or it could also be per second. Okay, now how can you define frequency? Frequency is the number of waves passing through a point in 1 second. Okay, then you should know the relation between time period and frequency. Frequency is 1 upon time period, or time period is 1 upon frequency. Okay, and then the next definition is wavelength. Wavelength is denoted by lambda. This thing which looks like a ulta y is known as lambda, and the SI unit of wavelength is meters. How can you define wavelength? For a transverse wave, wavelength is the distance between two consecutive crests or two consecutive troughs. You can see consecutive means one after the other. Distance between two consecutive crests or troughs is known as wavelength, or for a longitudinal wave, it is the distance between two consecutive compressions or two consecutive rarefactions. Okay, children, and the unit is meters denoted by lambda. You can see I have labeled it in the diagram also. Okay, now I move to the next definition, and that is wave velocity. How is wave velocity defined? Children, you all know velocity is speed. So naturally, the speed of a wave is said to be, or you can say the distance traveled by the wave per unit time is said to be its wave velocity. Distance traveled by a wave per unit time. It is denoted by capital V, and the SI unit of wave velocity is meters per second. Now here the next topic is I've derived a relation between wavelength, wave velocity and frequency. You can see that I've already introduced these three terms to you. How do I begin the derivation? Let us suppose that velocity of a wave is capital V, the time period is capital T, the frequency is small f, and the wavelength is lambda. Now by the definition of wavelength, it is wavelength is equal to wave velocity into time period. You have to learn this. Okay, so wavelength is wave velocity into time period. Now we all know that wavelength, now here if I combine this, I get wavelength is Vt, but we know that T is 1 upon f, as I told you before. So I substitute 1 upon f in place of T. So what do I get? I get wavelength is equal to V into 1 upon f, or when I cross multiply, I get V is equal to, I take the F that side, I get V is equal to F lambda. So this is the relation between wave velocity, frequency and wavelength. You can see I have written wave velocity of a wave is equal to frequency multiplied by the wavelength. This is an important formula. Now, as you saw, children, that I told you that wave motion can be of two types, right? The sound waves can travel in the form of transverse wave or longitudinal wave. Now, let us look at some important characteristics of a wave motion. There are two important characteristics. I've noted it down. The first one being that a wave motion, whether it is transverse or longitudinal, is always a periodic disturbance. The meaning of the word periodic means it is systematic. A crest is followed by a trough and a trough is followed by a crest, or in a longitudinal wave, a compression is followed by a rarefaction and a rarefaction is followed by a compression. So it is a periodic disturbance. And secondly, the particles vibrate about their mean positions. They do not leave their positions. You remember I told you one of the requisites as inertia and elasticity. So in case of any type of wave, whether it is longitudinal or transverse, the particles just vibrate about their mean positions and the energy gets transferred from one particle to the next particle. So children, you have to remember the characteristics of the wave motion. Next, we move on to two important graphs. Children, these graphs are very important. That's why I've drawn it for you clearly. One is the displacement time graph and other is the displacement distance graph. And these graphs are for a wave motion only. Okay, you can see that in the first case, I have taken displacement on the y-axis and I have taken time on the x-axis. This is the x-axis and this is the y-axis. Okay, children. Now, what have I shown? I have shown a wave motion, and this, whenever I draw a displacement time graph, remember, I can find out two things from this graph. Number one, I can calculate the amplitude of the wave, and I can also find out the time period of the wave with the help of displacement time graph. And secondly, when I plot a displacement distance graph in which I take displacement on the y-axis and distance on the x-axis, what do I get? I can find out, again I can find out two things from this graph. One is the amplitude of the wave and secondly the wavelength of the wave. So the question can be asked, plot the graph or represent the graph. Or a question could be asked that using the displacement time graph, what can you find out? So you will say you can find out amplitude and time period. And using the displacement distance graph, you can find out the amplitude and the wavelength. So please, I want you to practice this graph very, very carefully. Now we go to the next topic, children. This is, we are supposed to discuss, as I already told you, children, that speed is different in different media. Now, I have taken two examples. It can be asked to explain these examples. The first one being, a blacksmith, when he strikes his hammer onto an iron piece. You know who is a blacksmith, children? The person who, heats up metal and shapes it into different types of articles, that person is known as a blacksmith. So a blacksmith, when strikes his hammer onto an iron piece, you can see him striking, but you can hear the sound a little later, Similarly, the same thing happens with an explosion of a cracker. You can see the cracker exploding immediately, but you can hear it a few milliseconds later. What's the reason behind this? The reason behind this is that the speed of sound is, you cannot hear the sound instantaneously, but it takes some time for sound to travel from one particle to the other in the form of a disturbance, and therefore it is heard a little later than the things are seen. You can see the hammer strike before, you can see the sparking of the cracker before, but you can hear the hammer a little later, you can hear the cracker explosion a little later. What conclusion I draw? I drew the conclusion that sound does not reach us instantaneously, but it travels in a medium with some certain finite speed, and it takes some time for the sound to reach us. Okay, children. Now let us look at the speed of sound in a particular medium. Now, on what factors does the speed of sound depend? It depends on two main factors. One is the elasticity of the medium, which is denoted by capital E, and the other is the density of the medium, which is denoted by rho. Okay, so what is the formula? The speed of sound is the square root of elasticity upon density. From here, what do you make out from this formula? You make out that the speed of sound is inversely proportional to the density of the medium, and it is directly proportional to the elasticity of the medium. And you already know that the speed of sound is maximum in solids. So it is greater in solids, it is a little less in liquids, and it is the least in gases. Okay, so this should be very, very clear to you, and you should know that it depends on two factors, that is elasticity and density, directly proportional to elasticity and inversely proportional to the density. Okay children, so you should remember the factors and of course the reasoning questions. Now let us look at two more questions, which can be asked. Like, you have a long steel bar and you strike the steel bar at one end, and you tell a person to keep his ear on the other end, and you strike the steel bar from one end. That person will hear two sounds. It is very amazing, the person can hear two sounds. What's the reason behind it? The reason behind it is that when he hears the first sound, that is the sound which he hears from the traveling through the steel bar, and the second sound which he hears within few milliseconds is the sound which travels through air. So therefore this predicts, or this tells you, that speed of sound in solids is more than the speed of sound in gases. You can hear two sounds, one through the solid steel bar and the other through air. Okay. Similarly, look at the second question. A person who is living near a railway track, he presses his ear on the track to guess whether a train is approaching from a far off distance or not. Even if he cannot see the train coming, but he comes to know that the train is approaching. What is the reason behind this? When he places his ear on the railway track, children, railway track is made up of metal. So the sound travels faster through the metals, and the approaching train sound through the air will come later, but through the metal it will reach faster. So therefore, if a person is pressing his ears on a railway track, the sound of the approaching train can be heard, the vibration through the track can be heard, and the person comes to know that the train, even if the train is far off, the person comes to know that the train is approaching. Isn't it very interesting, children? Okay, so do not forget this fact. Now, we come to a very, very important topic now. Factors affecting the speed of sound in gases. See, before this we did the factors affecting the speed of sound in any medium. That was a general thing. Elasticity and density. That was general. We are now specific. We are looking at the factors on which the speed of sound in gases depend. Now here I have put down the factors. The first one being the density. As we saw previously, that the speed is inversely proportional to the square root of density. It means that if a medium is more dense, then the speed of sound, in case of gases, children, not in case of solids, okay? In case of solids, it's the other criteria. In case of gases, when the density of a gas is more, the speed of sound will be less. It is inversely proportional. What about temperature? It is directly proportional. That is, greater the temperature, greater will be the speed of sound. Okay, that is, the speed of sound is heard more in case of when the temperature is high. Then humidity. Speed of sound is directly proportional to humidity. Now there is a very popular question which is asked, and it's slightly confusing also. Now if you go to see, children, the density, if we compare dry air and moist air, we all know, we feel that the density of moist air will be greater. No, it's the other way around, children. The density of dry air is greater than the density of moist air. Always remember this. Why? Because the density of water vapor in the air is only 5/8 times the density of dry air. It is very, very less. So therefore what happens, the density of dry air is more than the density of moist air. And as we all have seen in the first point, that the density is inversely proportional to speed of sound. So therefore, if the density of moist air is going to be less, so the speed of sound will be greater in moist air. So remember that the sound travels faster in moist air because the density of moist air is less than the density of dry air. Never forget this. Okay, children? Next is one more factor left. We did 3 factors: density, temperature, humidity. Now we come to the 4th factor, that is direction of the wind. Children, if the wind is blowing in one particular direction and the sound is also moving in the same direction, then it favors the speed of sound. That is, it increases. That's why I wrote that speed of sound is directly proportional to the direction of the wind. And suppose if the speed of sound is moving in one direction and the wind is in the opposite direction, it will cut the speed of sound. Okay, I hope you have understood the factors, or the 4 factors on which the speed of sound depends. Now let us look at the factors on which the speed of sound does not depend. Okay, now the first thing being that the speed of sound is independent of the pressure. Okay, now let us look at this formula. The formula is speed is proportional to under root of gamma p over rho. Here p represents the pressure and rho represents the density, and gamma is a constant of proportionality which is used over here. Okay, and if you go to see, we already have done that speed is inversely proportional to density. Now let us look at why is pressure not related. For that I have considered a simple, I have supposed certain things, Let us suppose the pressure is doubled. The pressure of air is doubled. Now, when the pressure of air is doubled, the volume of air, reduces to half, right? So, the pressure is doubled, the volume reduces to half. And then what happens is that when the volume is reduced to half, the density also doubles. So, if you take pressure and density, both are doubled. So, ultimately, what is the conclusion? 2 and 2 cancels, which means that the pressure upon density remain constant. This ratio remains constant. So therefore, we say that when the pressure increases or decreases, there is no effect of it on the speed of sound. There is no change. Okay, and mass, always remains constant. Now let us look at the second point on which the speed of sound does not depend. It does not depend on the amplitude. Amplitude means the maximum displacement. It does not depend on the amplitude of the wave, and neither does it depend upon the wavelength or frequency of the wave motion. So there are 3 factors on which the speed of sound does not depend, children. One is the pressure, one is the amplitude, and the other is the wavelength and frequency of the wave. And which are the factors on which it depends, children? It depends upon the density. How inversely? It depends upon temperature directly. It depends upon humidity directly. And of course, the fourth was that it depends upon the direction of the wind blowing. That was also directly. Okay, children. So, I have covered all these topics with you. So far, I want you to have a quick recap of what we did. First of all, I discussed the different terms which were related to the wave motion of a particle. After discussing the different terms, I also discussed the 2 types of graphs with you, the displacement time and the displacement distance graph. Then I also derived a relation between wavelength, wave velocity and frequency of a wave. I also discussed a few reasoning questions with you, children, and towards the end I discussed the factors on which the generalized factors on which the speed of sound depends, and then the factors specifically on which the speed of sound in gases depend, and the factors on which it does not depend. So children, I want you to go through this class very carefully. Also cover up these topics from your textbook, and children, I will get back to you for your doubts. Thank you, children.